Greetings, digital world. Welcome back once again to another episode of Spliced In Later. I hope you're all doing well. Sorry there, I nearly choked on my own tongue. I don't know how that happened. I hope it didn't sound terrible. So for today's episode, I was going to talk about Indiana Jones. I was going to take a dive back and look at those origin stories for him and those movies and all of that. But it has been brought to my attention. I was asked end of last week, are you going to talk about the new Star Wars show, Obi-Wan Kenobi, that just finished on Disney+. And I hadn't even considered it. But then it was also pointed out to me that I've talked about The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett, which are two other live-action Star Wars TV shows. In fact, they're the only other live-action TV shows on Disney+. And I've talked about both of them, so I seem to have started a trend, and I should continue the trend. I'm unenthusiastic about it, not because I didn't like the show, or if I hated it, or I'm uninterested, or anything like that. I watched it regularly. Every Wednesday I was there to watch it, and there were parts I liked and parts I didn't like. But I'm so unenthused to talk about Star Wars, and I don't think it's Star Wars' fault. I think it's not fun to talk about because it's a toxic environment. And I know all the Star Wars fans that will have clicked on this review, if they've made it this far, if they've heard me mention that, they're already angry, and they're either typing in the comments or sending emails or jumping onto Twitter. Not all of them. There's a select few. I'm sure there are tons of Star Wars fans out there that are reasonable. And to those people, I say thank God for you. But I saw a TikTok vid which highlighted it perfectly, which is the difference between being a Marvel fan and a Star Wars fan. If you're a Marvel fan, you can walk up to somebody, find out they are a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the conversation is like, oh, what's your favorite movie? Captain America, The Winter Soldier. That's a good one. My favorite is Avengers Infinity War. Yeah, good stuff. Although Spider-Man No Way Home has its benefits. Yeah, that's true. I even slightly enjoy The Incredible Hulk. That's fine. That's a good origin story for the Hulk. It may not be fitting with everything else, but it's some good stuff there. It's very pleasant. It's very amicable. Everybody just sort of builds on a genuine like for the franchise as a whole. If you find a Star Wars fan, you're more than likely the conversation's going to go, oh, you're a Star Wars fan? What's your favorite film? The Last Jedi. What are you talking about? That's the worst one. Are you even a Star Wars fan? What? You like the prequels, but you don't like Hayden Christensen? This is just... Do you even know movies? Do you know what it is to like something? Do you understand that? It's just sort of it's more dangerous, and there's a lot more antagonism and venom in that. So even now, as I'm about to talk about this, I just don't want to, because I'm just reminded of while this show was airing, everything that was on TikTok, everything that was on Twitter, people either were praising the show or they thought it was the worst thing ever. But it was a consensus that those people, their opinion was the natural opinion of everybody else. And if you disagreed with that opinion, you declare war, or you are wrong, and also your mum's fat. Stuff like that. It's just, this whole world has just been tainted by that. And it's a shame, because I really, really loved Star Wars. I still like it, but I grew up with Star Wars as like my number one favorite thing. It beat out Doctor Who. It beat out whatever TV shows I was watching as a kid. Fucking Power Rangers, Captain Planet, whatever. It was the thing. And over time, it has just become this thing that's I'm wary to get involved with, and half the time I regret it. But we're going to talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi, and we're going to do this in a completely neutral setting. This isn't going to be this is a great show, 10 out of 10. Everybody has to see it. It's a return to form for Star Wars, and everybody's great, and it's wonderful. And it's also not going to be this is a cash grab from Disney to celebrate the IP brand and just get people watching Disney Plus, and there's no heart and soul, and everything about it is just void of emotion and depth, and everything sucks and I hate my life. It's completely going to be middle ground. It's a good show. I enjoyed it. It's not the greatest thing in the world. There are some odd decisions, I think, that have gone into certain directions, certain things which I think were supposed to be more impactful, but to me personally they weren't. But it's a fun time, and I think it's a good return to character for Obi-Wan Kenobi from the prequels, played by Ewan McGregor. It's a good little story. It's some good exciting points here and there. It's not at all a regret to have seen. That's a very basic review. There you go. You don't have to listen to anything else I've got to say. I hope you listen though, because I got a bit more. I got to fill up this episode a little bit. So I was keen. I've been keen for this show since it was announced and then cancelled and then announced again. Mainly because it is about Obi-Wan Kenobi, who is probably my favorite Star Wars character, specifically the version played by Ewan McGregor. And before you go, what are you, those Star Wars fans are going like, Alec Guinness is the real best, what are you talking about? Or whatever. Here's the thing. I watched The Phantom Menace before I watched any other Star Wars because I was a child when that came out. And Star Wars, for better or worse, is directed at children or young adults, really. It is a fantasy series more designed for them. Star Wars is a great original movie, but that's its direction. That's where it was headed at. Whatever. The Phantom Menace, I didn't hate it when I watched it because I was a kid. I thought it was very exciting. I thought Jar Jar was funny because I was a child. It was a great, exciting introduction to the world of Star Wars that got me going, this is cool. Lightsabers are cool. The space battles are cool. Jedi, astromech droids, pod racing, all of that stuff. Looked great. I had a really good time. It was one of my favorite movies for a very long time. And it launched me into actually going, oh, there are other Star Wars films? And then the gaps were filled in watching the original ones and then having the other two prequels come out. But my favorite part of The Phantom Menace, without a doubt, was the character of Obi-Wan Kenobi, played by Ewan McGregor. I don't know if people find him boring in that movie. I don't know if they think it's a pale comparison to Alec Guinness's portrayal. But just, this was a person watching this movie who had no idea about other Star Wars. So I was just introduced to the character of Obi-Wan Kenobi, who is the apprentice to Qui-Gon Jinn, his sidekick essentially for the movie, until he really saves the day at the end. He was a cool character. I thought Ewan McGregor was great as him. He was very witty, but also snarky. He was really very talented with his lightsaber, obviously. Had some really cool moments. I thought it was great. And then my love for him only continued as Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith came out. And Ewan McGregor got to really sink his teeth more into that. And he fulfilled his role as Anakin Skywalker's master, eventual best friend, and then maimer of sorts. So that was it though. We haven't really had Ewan McGregor back in that role. The Obi-Wan Kenobi of that prequels world has been in the Clone Wars TV shows. He's been referenced. There's been vocal cameos in the sequel trilogy. But in terms of him and also Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker, they've never really returned to it. So when this was announced to be, what I was very happy to hear is a limited series, though of course there's already rumblings of a season 2. This show doesn't need a season 2. Not every show needs to continue past a limited run. I love a good limited run series. But when it was announced it was going to be a 6-episode limited series with Ewan McGregor back in the role as Obi-Wan Kenobi. And it was going to take place halfway between Revenge of the Sith and the original Star Wars. And it was going to have a very personal story for Obi-Wan. I thought, great, that sounds cool. I want to watch that because I want to see Ewan McGregor's Obi again. And then it sounded pretty cool the more they announced about it. They said Hayden Christensen is going to come back to physically play Darth Vader, which sounded cool in concept, so I was excited for that. Even if we got some flashback stuffs with him, I was just excited to see the Hayden Christensen Anakin, because it's either what you get for the prequels or all the animated stuff or Darth Vader. Then you get some more information like, maybe Qui-Gon Jinn will show up as a ghost. Perhaps they'll have a confrontation. Maybe there'll be all sorts of stuff going on. The trailers come out. I personally thought the trailers are pretty cool. But again, they did that thing where they trick you. They played the themes from Star Wars, the Duel of the Fates, the Battle of the Heroes. When I hear that, my mind remembers those fights, and I enjoy those fights. So it may have been that I was like, oh, that's the thing that I remember, therefore I like this thing. I'm not sure. I thought the trailers were okay. It got me excited for it. And then, of course, the episodes came out on a weekly basis. I found myself mostly enjoying it. I was a bit bored in some places, but overall, the experience was pretty great. A lot of fun. And as a limited series, as I hope it stays, it's a good little midway story to fill in some gaps between who Obi was when he left at the end of Revenge of the Sith to who he eventually became when he was Ben Kenobi in the original Star Wars. Because this is an Obi-Wan, when we meet him, who is broken and tired and weak and ashamed of everything that has gone wrong, as he was at the end of Revenge of the Sith. But you do know by the time he gets to Star Wars, he's certainly mellowed out, or he's become more serene, one with the Force, the wise old mentor who doesn't really get emotional about anything and is ready to accept his eventual fate at the end of that movie. So, positives, because looking at the show as a whole now, that's why I wait until all the episodes are out before I like to talk about these things. My Mandalorian review, I only waited till about the first maybe half of the Mandalorian season 1 had finished, so it's not a complete review, but I don't feel like going back and talking about it again, like here's the rest of the series, here's what I think of the rest of the series. So for this stuff, for Obi-Wan, for Book of Boba Fett, for all the Marvel shows that are currently coming out, I think it's better to review it at the end because you get a appreciation of the product as a whole. An episode TV show is designed mostly to be building suspense and storyline. So a show's feel at episode 1 is going to be different to when you get to the season finale. You can't watch 2 episodes of a TV show and then review them because you don't have all the pieces to appreciate or to really know what's going on in those things. You can review it as an entertaining episode and go, I enjoyed it, I liked this, I liked that, but you may find as you get to episode 5 or 6 that something that happens in those episodes reflects what happened in an episode beforehand, and your opinion completely changes. For example, you could watch those first couple episodes of season 8 of Game of Thrones and go, they're a little slow, a little boring, but I can tell we're building to something good. And I know that it's going to be satisfactory and exciting, and it's going to just blow my mind. So as a result, I like these episodes knowing what we're building up to. Then you get to the end of that season and you go, that was trash. And it's changed my perception of those older episodes, if you get what I mean. So for review of the show as a whole, it's a good limited run. I don't need to see any more for sure. As I said, positives. Ewan McGregor back as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Best part about it, obviously, it needs to be for this show to work. You can tell that Ewan McGregor has a real love and respect for the character and for his role in it, as well as a respect for Obi-Wan's legacy in the Star Wars world, who he was when he was Alec Guinness, the effect that he has had on people who've watched it. He really gets to really act, which he didn't get a chance to do with the prequels. The prequels don't have that much in terms of emotion, or at least natural emotion. It's written in there, but it's very bare bones. It's very awkward, mainly due to George Lucas script writing and cheesy dialogue. But for this one, Ewan McGregor has become even more experienced of an actor. He's older, he's wiser, and he puts that into Obi-Wan Kenobi. It shows the lasting effect that it would have on you when your entire civilization, your whole world, collapses around you. Your best friend does the worst thing possible and becomes your ultimate enemy, and you have to hide away and not talk to anybody. And in that time, all you're going to do is reflect on everything you ever did that was wrong and the mistakes you've made. So they do a good job of having that affect his character. It is a slow burn for Obi-Wan in the beginning. He doesn't light up his lightsaber until the 3rd episode, and it's reluctantly at sorts. He's not using Jedi mind tricks everywhere he goes. He's not using the Force at all. He doesn't crack jokes. He's not a smart ass. He's beaten, he's sad, and he doesn't want to be a part of anything anymore. This is his punishment, watching over Luke Skywalker. It's not his mission. It is his exile of sorts. The plot, I don't want to tell the plot. If you haven't seen Obi-Wan Kenobi yet, it's good to go in without knowing anything about it. I didn't know what the eventual plot would be, so that was a nice surprise to learn that. I don't know if it was already known to everybody else beforehand that this character would be in it and they would be a big part of it. But a certain character in the Star Wars world is caught up in a kidnapping event, prompting Obi-Wan to come out of exile to go and find them. But the kidnapping has been orchestrated by the Inquisitors, who are Darth Vader's super secret evil Jedi band who hunt the remaining Jedi through the galaxy and execute them. There's a Grand Inquisitor, and then there's all the subservients, the 5th brother, the 7th sister, all of them. One of the Inquisitors is called Reva, who is a very angry young woman who is, for reasons that become clear later on, has a specific vendetta for bringing Obi-Wan Kenobi out of hiding and to find him and to kill him. She's our secondary antagonist, but it's interesting. Her character I liked the mystery behind her. I liked Moses Ingram's performance as her. I thought she was absolutely great. Very menacing, very threatening. Her emotions were all over the place, which is what I imagine somebody influenced by the dark side will be. Someone who uses their emotions to cloud how they use the Force and lightsabers and all of that. It was great watching her hunt Kenobi with this relentless passion in a way where you know there's more to it than what's going on. And Darth Vader. Darth Vader is in it, and it's not happily Darth Vader's coming back in Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then you watch it and he shows up in like 2 scenes to give some speeches, but he's effectively not in it. Darth Vader is our main antagonist on here. He's leading the charge for finding Obi-Wan once he realizes that he has a chance to settle the old conflict. Hayden Christensen being back is neat. I like when we get to see him, whether it's flashbacks to his time as a Jedi with Obi-Wan, or when we get to see the mask taken off Vader and you get to see the scars on him, or hallucinations that Obi-Wan sees. In terms of Hayden Christensen wearing the suit and being Vader, it means nothing to me. And if anyone who's still listening who are big Star Wars fans is annoyed by that, I apologize, but hear me out on this. It means nothing to me that he's in that suit, because it doesn't take advantage of Hayden Christensen's role as Anakin or his acting. Simply knowing he's in the suit and walking around is fine. That's a good sense of realism. But when you have a suit like Darth Vader's, which completely obscures the person inside it, and then not only that, but his voice is dubbed over by James Earl Jones, or from what I am told, not even James Earl Jones. We're stepping into that very controversial world now. I believe it is an AI-assisted James Earl Jones, which is a bunch of bull. It just means that they programmed a computer to sound like James Earl Jones. I'm sure James Earl Jones signed off on it and said that's fine, but it is not James Earl Jones speaking. It is a computer-assisted program that is speaking, sounding like James Earl Jones to get the authentic Darth Vader noise. I get why they did it. James Earl Jones is 91 years old. He probably doesn't feel like doing this shit anymore. And I do remember when he was in Rogue One in 2016, Darth Vader sounded old, which pulled you out of it, because you did go, Darth Vader sounds like he needs to sit down and take a breather. So I don't really care. I mean, if that's what they want to do, fine. But it's because of that voice that takes over Hayden Christensen's appearance and voice. So you can't see him, you can't hear his voice. It means nothing to me then that knowing that Hayden Christensen is in there, it doesn't amplify Darth Vader's presence or appearance. And Darth Vader has been made such a joke in terms of marketing for Star Wars. You see those clips online of him dancing at Disneyland, that he's not even scary or intimidating. There's one bit where he's massacring people in a village, and I thought, that's violent, but it's not affecting me the way it used to when Darth Vader would stroll onto screen in the original Star Wars. A few times, though, where you catch a glimpse of Hayden Christensen inside it, and you can see his face and him emoting, and the anger and the hatred, that's good, and that's the stuff that I was there for. But it's few and far between for a character that's basically, you could put anyone in that suit. They could have said Hayden Christensen was in there. You'd have taken their word for it, because you'd have no way to know one way or another. In terms of pacing, it's a bit all over the place. I do like that the show has a different location for each episode, so it's not stuck on Tatooine for 2 episodes or 3 episodes. Each episode feels like a new mini movie or a new set piece. So episode 1 is Tatooine, episode 2 is a grungy space city, episode 3 is a desert or a landscape place, episode 4 is a siege in an underwater base, episode 5 is another siege in a different type of base, 6 is a spooky final conflict. It revitalizes it with every episode, so it feels like a new chapter in the story. But it spins its wheels about halfway through, because it needs to get out to 6 episodes. It knows where it wants to go. The ultimate goal is the Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Vader conflict. But we need 6 episodes, so we're going to take our time getting there, but we also don't have much to do in between that. Leading to episode 4, which is definitely the weakest in the run, where Obi has to break into the Inquisitor's base to rescue someone. that whole sequence of events is silly. I don't think it's thought out particularly well. There's a very strange thing where Obi-Wan dresses up in an Imperial outfit and he looks like bloody Mr. Bean trying to sneak out of a church. They're knocking over stormtroopers but leaving them out in the hallway where anyone can find them. The homage, I assume, is for the original Star Wars, but it just doesn't work. It feels silly to me. And I think most people got that impression as well, but I'm not sure. It's stuff like that which drew down the pacing and drew down the believability of it all. I don't think it had trouble finding a nice halfway point between being serious and emotional and being cheesy and silly. And as a result, one contradicted the other, making the other stand out. When it's really serious, but then a bad guy just runs into a tree, or when you've got a very silly Zach Braff voiced seal going, "Oh yes, I like the Empire," but then combined with stormtroopers going, "We're going to absolutely murder you if we find out you're a Jedi." Its tone and pacing is completely all over the place. But as a whole, in terms of the limited series, the ultimate goal here, I'm not upset it exists. I think it was made with a certain level of awareness of what they were doing and expertise. Ewan McGregor is great back as Obi-Wan. I enjoyed revisiting that thing with him and Vader and learning about how his character evolved to become the Obi-Wan of The New Hope. As far as television shows go at the moment, most of the time they look impressive. The budget going into this stuff looks great. It's probably it's a expensive looking TV show or it's a cheap looking movie, but it's at that cusp where you can't tell the difference between the two, which is pretty good. Good action, love seeing lightsabers, love seeing more Star Wars stuff that's not just remember this, remember that. It's a unique story which does rely on the Obi-Wan Vader relationship, but it's the backbone of an otherwise unique world with unique planets, brand new characters, all of that stuff, which is pretty great. That said, if they make any more of it, it's gonna go down in terms of points for me, because we don't need to know. We know by the time I finish this show, I'm like, okay, I get Obi-Wan Kenobi's story, I get his arc, I get his journey for this show, and he is at that point where he's ready to be the Obi-Wan that we meet when he's played by Alec Guinness in the original one. To be like, oh, people like this show, all right, Obi-Wan Kenobi season 2, this time he's got to go here and do that. They had trouble coming up with enough story for this one. Don't push it out. Be content with what you've got and move on. I know it's hard for Hollywood and for Disney especially to let their hands off something and go, that'll do, pig, that'll do. But my fingers are crossed for that. Overall, Obi-Wan Kenobi gets an 8 out of 10 from me. It was an enjoyable ride. I had fun with it. I really enjoyed seeing my favorite character played by my favorite version back. It kept me entertained for 6 weeks. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but in terms of Star Wars content, it's not the worst thing that's ever come out by far. It's not the best, but it's certainly not the worst. A good time was had by me. No alcohol required. There you are. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed. Apologies if I offended anyone with my early comments about Star Wars fans. I don't mean to attack anyone or call people out. It's more a defensiveness on my part because it worries me when I delve into the Star Wars content and to talk about what I like or don't like about Star Wars, about the kind of response I'm going to get in a way that I just don't think about when I talk about anything else. Marvel Cinematic Universe, Mission Impossible, Top Gun, anything like that. You do not get that sort of vitriol response that you sometimes get with Star Wars. But apologies if anyone likes Star Wars and they feel like I've attacked them personally. I will say though, if you think I am, have a think about how you behave, maybe. Okay, that's silly. I'm turning into a school teacher. Anyway, Obi-Wan Kenobi was good. Have a check it out. If you're a Star Wars fan, I'm pretty sure you'll like it, especially if you're a Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan Kenobi fan. I will be back next week for a normal episode before my eventual exciting review of Thor Love and Thunder, which I am counting the days to watch that one. I loved Thor Ragnarok, and I'm excited to see what Taika Waititi does again for the adventures of Thor and Korg. Until then, stay safe. I love and appreciate you all as always, and I'll see you on the next Spliced In Later. Adios, muchachos. I'll catch you next time.